Hey guys, welcome to the Superhero Cinephiles podcast. I'm your host, Perry Constantine, and this is just a quick instant reaction episode I wanted to record. I just got home from seeing Superman. I had just finished it about 30 minutes ago, and I wanted to get my thoughts out a little bit, and I'm going to try and keep this as spoiler-free as possible. I'm recording on my phone, so apologies if the sound quality is not what you're used to. Also, I'm speaking at kind of a lower volume because my family is asleep. My wife was kind enough to watch the kids while I went to a late showing. So everyone's asleep, and I just wanted to get some ideas out. Anyway, basically, spoiler-free instant reaction summed up in one word. I loved it. It was not exactly what I was expecting, but it was not in any way, and I don't say that as a bad thing. I really, really liked what we got. David Cornsweet, I'm not so sure if I'd go so quick as to say he's my favorite Superman, but man, he's definitely up there, and given that we're going to be seeing a lot more of him going forward, I think he'll definitely be a contender. Right now, my heart is still with Tyler Hoechlin, but maybe that'll change after seeing this movie again. Once it comes out on streaming or anything of that nature. But I loved what he did with it. There is a little something they did with the secret identity thing. Not the biggest fan of the aspect that they mentioned with that. You'll see it when you go see the movie, and if you have seen the movie, you already know what I'm talking about. I don't think that kind of thing is necessary. I think... Anyway, I'm not going to say any more about that, but I loved his performance. I thought he did a really good job showing the different sides of... We actually didn't get a whole lot of Clark, unfortunately, so that trend is still continuing as it has continued in previous movies. I mean, we don't always see him as Superman, but when he is... The times when we see him as Clark, it's more what I call Smallville Clark, like real Clark, the true face. We don't see much of the... what I call Metropolis Clark, the masked version of Clark Kent, where he's putting on an act and all that. So I didn't really get a good sense of how he differentiated his Clark performance and his Superman performance, other than some vocal changes, which he does. And he is seems a little bit more, at least in the scenes with Lois, he seems a little bit more relaxed when he's the real Clark compared to when he's Superman. Speaking of Lois, I loved their relationship. Rachel Brosnahan, I know a lot of people were very high on her going in. I hadn't seen her in anything. I haven't seen the Marvelous Ms. Maisel, or I'm not sure exactly what the title is, but I know a lot of people love her in that, and they were really excited to see her in this because of that. I haven't seen any of that show, so I was completely cold going into this, so I had no preconceived notions. But I thought she did great. She had this tenacity to her, but she also had a warmth to her as well. We got a lot of Jimmy action too. I was really kind of impressed about that. And I thought the guy who played him, and I'm blanking on his name, but I thought he did a great job. I love the whole Daily Planet crew. I wish we could. I'm hoping maybe we could see, some stuff with this crew, like. Someone mentioned on another podcast I was listening to that it'd be cool if we got a Daily Planet TV show or something like that, and I would be all for that. Just seeing how these characters interact, because what little we did see, I was totally on board for. Perry was great, on point. In the middle of a crisis, he's just calmly sitting there listening to Lois lay out the story while chomping on a cigar, and it's just like perfect Perry White energy. I loved it. Let's see what else. Lex Luthor, Nicholas Hoult. I didn't love him as Beast in the X-Men movies, but I've seen him in other stuff that I liked him in. So I was curious to see how he'd do as this. We're finally getting away from the more Hackman-y Lex Luthor portrayal, which I really liked. There is a tiny little bit of a real estate thing in here, though, which I thought was kind of funny. Every time we have a Superman movie, there's some real estate aspect to it. Although they do kind of undermine that when they get to the end of the movie, so I'm not going to spoil anything about that. But there is a bit of a real estate thing in there. He's a bit more mustache twirling than I like my Lex to be. I like Lex to be a little bit more nuanced. So we still haven't dethroned Michael Rosenbaum from his position as my favorite Lex Luthor, but Holt really did a great job with what he had. I thought he played it very well, and one of the things I like is they didn't downplay his intelligence at all. This is a Lex Luthor who is absolutely brilliant, so I did like that aspect of it too. The Justice Gang, as they're called in this, I love them, especially, I mean, I knew I was going to like Guy Gardner going into this because I love Nathan Fillion, and he did not disappoint. But also, man, Mr. Terrific, I'm not a big Mr. Terrific guy. I haven't seen much of him in the comics, so I don't really have a whole lot of reference from him. I think the thing I've seen him where he's had the biggest role has been in the Strange Adventures series that Tom King did, which I thought he was really cool in that. So, but yeah, I really liked him in this, and he was definitely the MVP of the Justice Gang. Hawkgirl, yeah, she was pretty cool, but I think it would have been nicer if her mask had like the kind of like goggle lenses that it has in the comics. It didn't have that though, so I thought it was a little bit distracting when we could see her eyes all the time. But that aside, I thought she did a pretty good job. Metamorpho, really, really impressive with him, and I wasn't expecting the role that he had in there, but I really liked what we saw of him in that. Crypto was a lot of fun, and I've never been a fan of Crypto, or a lot of those Silver Age type things, but I thought it was done very well in this. They gave just enough Crypto to make it interesting, and we get some explanation, right? It's not this situation where he grew up with Crypto. So I thought it was interesting how we got that through, and get a surprise cameo at the end as well, which is leading into a future DC project. So I love that. A surprise Peacemaker cameo as well, which is a lot of fun to see John Cena there. The story, or I had a feeling going in, based that since we had like authority characters like the Engineer in here, and it looked like maybe the Justice Gang was going to be taking the part of the Elite. I was thinking that we were going to get kind of a riff on What's So Funny About Truth, Justice, and the American Way, one of my favorite Superman stories of all time, especially when we also had the foreign conflict things with Superman meddling in. We didn't, though, and that was where I was a little bit disappointed, because I did want to see that aspect of it. But what we got was still very entertaining, so I'm not so pleasantly disappointed, we can say, because I still really like what we got, although, still don't have that live action adaptation of Truth, Justice, and the American Way. Some other things is the action is great. This is a real spectacle. I saw it in IMAX, and not 3D, just regular IMAX, but it was a great way to watch it. If you can watch it in IMAX, I definitely recommend it. The sound, the visuals, it was basically awe-inspiring. The music was great. It was the entire thing. It had, you could see the DNA of the Donner films in it, but it wasn't beholden to the Donner films in the way that Superman Returns was, or even that some of the CW Superman stuff like Supergirl was. It was still, you can see that it was taking inspiration for those things, but it wasn't trying to copy them or trying to do the same thing that they did. So I really like that part of it. The fortress looked great. The robots were a lot of fun. And one of the things I liked is they really leaned into all of the wacky super science-y aspects of Superman, right? We get pocket dimensions, and all sorts of things like that. So that stuff I really dug. Monpa, we get Monpa, and unlike, I'm going to put some people at ease right now. This is a slight spoiler, but there is no neither Ma or Pa die in this or are suffering from any disease or life-threatening illness or anything like that. None of that. So it is just, pretty much vintage post-crisis Ma and Pa Kent we see in this. Wasn't so sold on the actress who played Martha. I think she was a little bit too folksy, but Jonathan was a little bit better. Still a little bit on the folksy side, but there was one scene in particular where he really sold it very well and kind of won me over. I mean, we're still not in Glenn Ford or John Schneider territory, but good enough. Really well done for the most part. I'm not sure what else to say. There is the Ultraman thing. All right, so the Ultraman reveal is kind of what some people... I'm just going to say, I'm not going to spoil it, but I will say that I had seen this theory floated around online. So one of the theories that has been floated around online did prove to be correct. I'm not going to say which one it is, though, but you'll see when you see the movie. We do get a mid-credit scene and a post-credit scene, although they're very quick. They're not really big as far as setting up anything in the future. Although the very end of the movie, before the credits, we do get a little hint of one of the next movies. So that was fun to see. And yeah, looks like we are hitting the ground running with this new DC Studios. I really like this movie. I got a real kick out of it. I was super invested, pun not intended, in it the whole way through. I had a big old smile on my face throughout most of it. I know some people were talking about worried about the gun humor. It felt, it wasn't like, the Guardians or anything like that. It was, definitely not Peacemaker. I think Gunn did a good job, and he kind of knew that he had to restrain himself a little bit more with this movie. So the humor comes out in certain bits, but when it does come out, it's pretty quick, and it doesn't. It's not overbearing. It's just the right amount, and they never really play Superman for laughs, which is a good thing. But at the same time, they still do manage to really humanize Superman and give him a bit of an edge. Not, a Zack Snyder-y Man of Steel edge, but more of the Golden Age, Champion of the Oppressed, Grant Morrison, World Against Superman type of edge to him. Right? There's just a little bit where this Superman is willing to throw down a little bit. He's willing to push back when he's challenged. Right? He's not going to always take things in stride. He gets angry, and I thought that was a different but interesting look at him. So I really enjoyed that, and it was nice that we could see a Superman who, sometimes loses his temper. So overall, very much enjoyed it. Total fun, great visuals. James Gunn really knows how to film these action scenes, and also really knows how to yank some tears out. There were some definite emotional beats in this, especially one at the end. You'll know it when you see it, because I've talked about this on the show. I'm a big old softie for that kind of stuff, and so it totally killed me when that happened. And nothing bad, nothing like life-threatening, but just like very emotional. There was a lot of emotion in this movie that worked really well. But yeah, so those are just some of my quick thoughts on it. Definitely a lot of fun. I will have more to say about this. I'm actually going to be on the Real Talk podcast. I'm recording a episode with them this weekend to talk about it. And we'll obviously eventually do an episode of it here on the show. Probably once it comes to home video and all that. And no idea who's going to be on to talk about that or anything like that. But, obviously you guys will hear that if and when it happens. When it happens, it's going to happen eventually, right? A movie like this, it can't not happen. But yeah, if for some reason you've been sitting on the fence about this movie, just got to say, go for it. It's totally worth it. I was so happy that I was able to get out to a late show to see it, and now it's like midnight here, and I'm still jazzed. I was wide awake throughout the entire movie. It's perfectly paced. It's jam-packed with story, but it still manages to cover everything very well. So again, not exactly the movie I was expecting, but still a movie I really liked nonetheless. I'm not going to do any rankings or anything like that. This movie is still too fresh for that. But, maybe by the time comes time to do the episode, when we eventually do an episode on Superman, then I'll have a better idea of where I would kind of rank this in amongst all the Superman movies. Although I got to say right now, it's pretty high, just based on my initial feelings coming out. But I'm usually like that. I've said this on the show, that when I come out of a movie, my reactions tend to be very extreme. It's usually like, oh man, I love that. That was the greatest thing ever. Or, oh my God, I completely hated that. That was terrible. It's very rare that I have kind of a nuanced view coming right out of the theater. But I did like this a whole lot. Hopefully, if you've seen it, hopefully you're nodding your head along with me. If you haven't seen it, then I hope when you do see it, you have kind of the same experience I did, where I was smiling the whole time, right? It was such a great feeling to sit in the theater and watch a Superman movie and really kind of feel that rush, which I hadn't really felt. I got it a little bit at some parts in Superman Returns, but not to this extent. So, yeah, that about does it for now. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.